Welcome to my program, Bashy's Corner. We invite guests from all sections of the Danish society to discuss with them politics, socio-economical issues, culture, sports, education, whatever issue actually we think is very important. And the reason we have this program is that mainstream media often neglects those issues which are very important, and that is why we take up those issues. Today our guest is a very lovely lady called Pajkic Karlshøj. It's a combination of Danish and Bosnian. You have just done a wonderful master's degree.
Thank you.
I work with the media, so I'm very interested in what it entails, and we'll discuss about that. First, let me ask you, Nina, what does this cross-cultural studies consist of?
Well, the program deals with international cross-cultural issues as minority studies and integration, and primarily globalization,
okay.
but also issues as racism and prejudice.
So it was this courses or this study is new, or it has been there for long?
No, it's quite new. I think the first study started in 2009.
Okay,
yeah.
So it's quite new.
Yeah, it's quite new.
All right, but why did you choose this field?
Well, I chose it for different reasons, but primarily because of my own background.
And what is that?
Well, I came to Denmark as a war refugee from
okay.
Bosnia.
All right.
And so I'm a minority woman in Denmark, which is why I'm very interested in just getting to know the cultural issues.
But you don't look minority woman when you're walking in the street.
No, that's the privilege of being a Bosnian woman.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there are many Bosnians in Denmark?
Yeah, actually I think Bosnians are one of the biggest minority group in Denmark, yeah.
Okay, and they're quite well integrated?
Well, in the Danish media, we're told always that we're well integrated because we look Danish, you know. But when you read the articles, you see it's primarily because we look Danish and we don't have a Bosnian accent, and we're well educated, and our culture is the same.
Okay. Now, as much as we all know how the Danish society works, there's a big need of engineers and doctors, IT specialists, you know. And here you are doing your your master's in an area which may be not so good for your career.
That's right.
Is it true?
Yeah, I think it is true because, well, the easiest way to get a good career in Denmark is not to defend minorities.
Okay. And so why do you do that? Just because you're a minority, or you really believe there's something wrong?
Because I believe there is a big need for this in the society.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Danish society?
Yeah. Especially in Danish society.
But in Denmark, many Danes consider Denmark as a monocultural society, and they're very proud of that, you know.
That's correct.
Is it so? Can you see that?
No, I don't believe Denmark has ever been a monocultural society. I mean,
okay.
I live myself in Vesterbro, and there's a huge cultural difference just in the areas of Copenhagen. But also if you visit Bornholm, where I grew up, or a fishing village in Jutland, I mean, the difference would be so huge that it would even be hard to understand the language.
Okay. So one can conclude that Denmark is not a monocultural society.
No, it has never been a monocultural society, and there's not one culture ever, you know, and the culture will never be static. It's changing all the time.
Okay. With this change, do you believe that one day we all will have intercultural living in Denmark? It will happen, do you think? Or you are pessimist or optimist?
I'm always an optimist.
That's
but
good.
I think, you know, Denmark is a very new multicultural society.
Okay.
If you compare it to the United States or Canada.
Even Britain.
Even Britain, you know, but even just Sweden and Norway are more tolerant towards their minorities, you know.
Okay.
But I think I mean, Denmark is a multi-ethnic country and a multi-religious and a multicultural country, so I think we just need to accept this fact and try to build bridges together, and to benefit from this diversity instead of fighting it just because it's a change.
You just said that you're an optimistic person. You know, you look at the bright side. I'm a journalist. I look at the negative sides. You know, but what do you base this optimism? Because when we look at the society, what is being said, what has been the popular discourse, politician, media, even the public discourse, it does not fit well with what you're just saying.
Well, I think, we learn from history, and also my research showed that, I mean, in the last just 5 years, it's much easier to get a voice in the media being a minority. I'm not saying it's easy, it's very hard, but it's much easier today than it was just 5 years ago. So, I mean, even if it looks kind of dark, there are some good things and some good changes.
Okay. My experience is the opposite. Actually, in 80s, 90s, we could get into any media we like. Today is mostly social media. It's very difficult. But I'm happy that you are positive as a young person, So let's get back to your thesis, which is actually the main topic of our discussion, our interview. You start by saying in your thesis, the purpose of this thesis is to study how Muslims and Islam are articulated and represented in the current Danish media, right? Why did you choose this topic? Because you know how dangerous this topic is.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was invited to a diversity debate at the University of Copenhagen last November, so 1st November 2013. And at this debate, Infomedia, they presented a new quantitative study, which found that in the years from 2006 until 2011, the media coverage of issues as Islam and Muslims and immigrants and integration was actually halved, like almost 50% in these years. Yeah, but my feeling was since the summer of 2013, there's been a renewed interest in the debate of the integration, especially with a negative focus on the Muslim and Islams. And this is why I felt that there was a need in the society for research of the current representation.
It's interesting you say that the fall in the percentage, because my organization also works with media monitoring, and even that the Muslim communities are only 3-4% of the total population, the media coverage is sometimes 30 to 50% in a certain period. And out of that, 70% is negative, very focused on criminal. So, in your research, which issues about Muslims and Islam you came upon which are very, debated in Denmark?
Well, studies of older material found that crime news were actually the most debated topics. But in my research, I found that today the most debated topics are cultural integration, values, minority rights, the public domain, and especially a fear of Sharia.
Fear of Sharia?
Yeah.
What is this fear? That Muslims will take over Denmark and implement Sharia?
Yeah, actually. It's not very realistic, because I mean, Muslims today are born in Denmark and they have Euro-Islam and they adapt Islam to democratic values and to Danish values. But I mean, you have to know that the most ethnic Danish knowledge of Muslims and their knowledge of minorities is actually from the media.
Exactly.
So it's hard to know what the reality is.
I just want to narrate something to you which may be interesting as a researcher. In 80s also there was a big debate. At that time it was not Islam but minorities in general, immigrants. And many Danes say, oh, they are going to take over, they are going to destroy Danish culture. And one member of parliament, Arne Milcha, with a Jewish background, he went on Danish parliament's podium and he said something very beautiful. He said, if 60,000 Muslims at that time can destroy Danish culture, then the Danish culture is worth nothing.
Yeah.
So that is why it's very interesting that you say that people are afraid of Sharia. When who's going to implement Sharia? I mean, Muslims don't have any power. You know, how they're going to do that? Just it will drop from the sky?
No, I think. I mean, the media chooses to focus on stereotypes. You know.
Yes, yes.
I mean, for example, I saw this debate between Støjberg and Inger Støjberg and Adnan Avdic.
Yes.
I mean, he was convicted of terrorism, and he was, you know, he believes in Sharia and he doesn't believe in integration. You know, like from the 240,000 Muslims, they choose this person.
Nobody chose him. He just went there himself.
Isabel chose him to represent Muslim youth.
Okay,
you know?
in that sense, he was not representing Muslim. He was representing himself.
Yeah, but I mean,
Isabel focused him as a representative of Muslims.
Of Muslims and Muslim youth. Yeah, Muslims in Denmark.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and he has the same background as me. You know, a Bosnian background. But even in Bosnia is not. I mean, Bosnia is not a Islamic country with Sharia. So even there, he would be very, very radical and fundamentalistic.
Mm-hmm. And you also looked at other debates. What are other discourses which dominate the debates about Muslims over and above Sharia? You know, there must be some other things too.
Well, in my study, the primary discourse is a discourse of integration. But of course, there are also other significant discourses. We have the discourse of free speech, and also a discourse of economical discourse in relation to halal export to Saudi Arabia. Yeah, but
chicken,
yeah, and beef meat, as well, which we saw in the debate about Hvidovre Hospital, who only served halal meat. And in the Danish institutions which boycott pork.
Yeah, but Muslims never asked for the boycott. It's the institution themselves that do.
Yeah, I mean, this is only happening in a few institutions.
Yes.
You know, in 30 kindergartens in one hospital.
Yes.
In whole Denmark, you know. And this is something the hospital chose because it's easier, you know, not because Muslims asked for this.
So then the question comes, why does Ekstrabladet and other newspapers do that, in your opinion?
In my opinion, well, I think because of the news media criteria, you know, I mean, it's easy to focus on conflict and on drama and on stereotypes, and because the Danish people don't know very much about foreigners, about Islamic culture, it's easiest to take this culture and put it in contradiction to Danish culture. You know? To define what Danish culture or dansk is, it's easiest to find what we are not.
Yes.
You know, if we are good, they are bad. If we are white, they are black. You know.
But what would the newspaper will get out of that, or what will media get out of that by giving this kind of false impression?
Readers.
Oh, so you think it's for money?
Yeah, of course. I mean, today most media is social media. You know. Everyone has a voice. Yeah. So if you want to keep people reading the newspapers, you have to give them what they want. And well, people want to read drama, and also if they are scared of Muslims, it's easiest to just give them like a picture of a panicked situation.
But to me, it doesn't make any sense that if people are afraid already, and you're scaring them more, and creating conflict in the society, you won't get anything out of that. You just will be more problems.
Well, yes, and that's one of the problems. The very asymmetric power relation between the media and the politicians and the public, you know.
Okay.
We have to find a way to push the politicians and the media to give a more pluralistic and a more critical and also just a more factual representation of these minorities, because they don't have a voice themselves if they're not given a voice. And as you say, it's very hard to be interviewed in the media as a minority.
So what I understand from you, that there is this power relationship between politician, media, and the public.
Yeah.
I call it 3 Ps, you know, press, politician, and public, and they feed on each other.
Yeah, it's like a bad circle in the case of Muslims and Islam. Yeah.
Okay, so Islam and Muslims has become like the bad guy.
Yeah, it's just the easiest syndebuk. How do you say it in English?
Is somebody you can present as a bad example.
Yeah, it's the easiest stereotype to take.
Yeah, okay. Now, as you say that this dichotomy between politician and journalists, you know, do they sometimes do it intentionally or unintentionally?
Well, I think in the case of the politicians, I think they use the media as a tool to get their opinions out to the public. And the easiest way to do this is to follow the criteria of the media, which is conflict, which is, you know, heroes and bad guys. So I think it is on purpose, but also I don't think that the politicians and the media are aware of the consequences of this negative representation, you know.
Okay, but then the question comes, which we also hear, that politician has a right to say what they like, and media has freedom of expression. So how do we bring to the politician and the media that they have to be more responsible? Can we use your, for example, your research and say, hey, look, what have you been doing?
Well, there is a lot of research, you know, and as you say, there's been research since the 80s showing the same thing. You know, there is a prevailing negative focus, but they just don't listen. So we need to get a better representation of minorities and especially Muslims in the media. You know, we need to put some positive identity to the identity marks. You know, to the, for example, halal meat, to tell, okay, this is healthier than Danish sausages, or to show the positive statistics. For example, there are more women with a non-Western background taking a higher education than women with ethnic Danish background. But this is not something you hear in the media. Okay,
so the media is not interested?
No.
How do we make them interested then?
We have to speak out simply, and I don't want to use like fight rhetorics, but we have to take a stand, and we have to, I mean, everyone can write a letter to the editor. Of course, it's the editor who picks the letters which will get published.
But if many do that, then maybe
but if many people write a letter, they will have to pick it, they will have to show our face, you know? But I think a lot of Muslims are scared as well.
Are they scared?
I think a lot.
It's a free country.
It's a free country, but I mean, if I think a lot of women with headscarves don't get asked, and then if you want to research if the headscarf is suppressing women, then you ask a male politician, another Muslim woman, you know, and this is what's going on in this society.
Can we call it a clash somehow between so-called Western Danish values and then the other side, the Muslim, not culture but cultures or values? Is it that what we are we are seeing now?
No, I think that's what the media wants us to see. Because if you categorize all Muslims in this one big Islamic global threat, then the Danish culture is actually a minority. But but that's not the fact, because I mean you can categorize every Christian in one big Christian society.
Yes.
You know, so the ethnic Danish majority is a majority, and Muslims is not one big group. You know, they have different ethnic backgrounds, different religious views. So they shouldn't be represented as one homogeneous group.
Okay. Again, journalists say that they are just doing their job. You know, they are reporting what they see, what they hear, what they experience. Isn't it so?
No. I think that in the context of Muslims, the media doesn't live up to its social responsibility of a fair coverage, or even a pluralistic coverage.
In your research, you took a 3 months period, right?
Yeah.
And looked at newspaper, not TV.
No, only newspapers.
Only big newspaper.
Yeah.
Was there any similarity between all these newspapers? Or they were different in their approach to Muslims and Islam?
Well, I studied Pajkic.
Yes, the big newspaper.
Yeah, big newspaper. Kristelig Dagblad, which had the most hits about Muslims and Islam.
It's a Christian newspaper.
Yeah, and Ekstra Bladet.
Okay.
And of course, everyone knows that Ekstra Bladet is
more
of a tabloid, you know, and they focus more about on conflict. So the Ekstra Bladet was, you know, the primary one to show a negative picture.
Okay.
But I would say Kristelig Dagblad and Pajkic, they also, I mean, they don't only use one person, but then they use 3 Muslims to show the whole picture, you know.
Okay.
They also.
But the result is the same.
Yeah, the result is the same, but you know they don't show a pluralistic picture at all. So it's I mean, it's simply not good enough.
No, I have been following all this newspaper, and with Kristelig Dagblad especially, I write sometime in Kristelig Dagblad. They ask for some comments, you know. My experience is that the editors in Kristelig Dagblad and the top people, they do it on purpose.
On purpose.
Yeah, because they have, their mission is to spread gospel, and they work very closely with priests, many priests, and the discussion also is about religion itself, you know. They do good work too, but I remember that the chief editor of Kristelig Dagblad once wrote that Muslims cannot integrate in Danish society. And when I asked him, why do you say that? He had no answer. But it's interesting coming from a chief editor of a very serious newspaper saying that Muslims cannot integrate. What is a Muslim?
Well, the reason why a lot of Danish people say that Muslims don't integrate as easily as Christians.
But cannot integrate. That's a different thing.
Yeah, I think that's also again because of they categorize the Muslims same, you know, as it's Muslim becomes a synonym for radicalization or for Sharia.
And extremism and violence.
Yeah, and this is simply just because, I mean, of course, editor know his social responsibility, but I think like media people in general need a better education in minority views and
training of journalists.
Yeah, training simply, and just knowing what the consequences are.
Another argument which one offers here from journalists is that if Muslims don't like what we write, they can just write back. And you talked about this power structure, you know, who can, who can't. Do you think it is easy for Muslims to write back and get their voice heard?
No, I think it's almost impossible. Especially if you want to defend or write anything positive about
or explain
Muslims.
Something. Or even explain something.
Yeah, or even explain something. I mean, I read all of these hits I got from all of these newspapers, and there was actually not even one article saying anything positive about Muslims. There were only negative things, you know, not even one article.
But do you think that the media people are aware of their responsibilities? Are they aware what they're doing?
Of course they are. I mean, it's their job. Yeah, I'm sure they are.
Did you send your research to the editors and the newspaper journalists?
I did recently. I haven't gotten any comments other than that I'm not allowed to show my front page on social media.
So they were afraid that people will know the truth?
I think so. That's the general issue, yeah. When you say
so you
positive.
Succeeded sometimes shaking people?
I hope so. I do try.
So do you have any advice to the media?
Yeah. I would say if you want to research or if you want to speak about or write about minorities, then get the minority to be the source.
Talk to them?
Yeah, talk to the minority.
Okay.
If you want to know how it feels to be a black man in a white society, then talk to a black man. We are out there, you know, Muslims and black people and all kinds of minorities.
I think it's a wonderful advice. Are you going to publish this as a book?
I would love to if I get any offers from publishers.
Well, we will try to get you some offers.
Thank
Nina, thank you very much for this lovely interview. And thanks for sharing your views with our viewers. And I'm sure that many of the things which you have said has woken interest in our viewers. And also thanks to our viewers for watching this program. Until next time, take good care of yourself. Thank you very much again.